call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. and ask for any public comment on any items that are not presently on the agenda. Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. Item number 3, call on Megan Silverstrom regarding the press release and a proclamation regarding National Preparedness Month. This thing says no. I'm sorry. We go ahead.
Yes, folks, we have a press release going out today, and we also have a proclamation that this will be National Preparedness Month. And I'll read the proclamation to you. Whereas National Preparedness Month is an opportunity to raise awareness about the importance of emergency preparedness and to encourage all Americans to better prepare their homes and communities for emergency. And whereas a multitude of potential emergencies and disasters such as flooding, winter weather, fires, electrical outages, or acts of terrorism may result in extensive damage to roads, streets, bridges, private homes, and businesses, and may cause other adverse impacts upon the general population of Cumberland County. And whereas the Commissioners of Cumberland County and the Department of Public Safety, along with other federal, state, county, and local emergency management officials, participate in and support a month-long National Preparedness Month designed to raise awareness and the need for preparedness at home and work. And whereas in recognition of the need to adequately prepare, we call upon the people of Cumberland County to recognize the importance of preparing for potential emergencies and observe this month by participating in preparedness events, activities, and programs at home and in the workplace. Now, therefore, the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims September 2016 as Preparedness Month in Cumberland County, Pennsylvania, presented this 8th day of September. And again, there will be a press release released today. And Megan?
This is our 10th year participating in National Preparedness Month. There are agencies at the state, local, and federal level that participate in this program. It's really important. Just a few years ago this week, we were living in the Emergency Operations Center down at Public Safety for Tropical Storm Lee. I have lots of friends on Facebook today sharing the photos of that mass flooding, especially in the Dauphin County area. So pretty much anything and everything short of a volcano and a tsunami can happen in Cumberland County, believe it or not. So it's very important to prepare. It's a really important message that we like to hit on every day, but especially in September. Folks need to do some simple things at home, talk to their families, talk to their kids about preparedness. 40% of businesses don't return to business after a natural or man-made disaster, which is a pretty large and astounding number. So even businesses need to get on it and have emergency plans and disaster backup plans. So we thank you for, once again, the 10th year allowing us to do this and allowing us to kind of make a big deal on preparedness for an entire month. So
What is a big deal?
we think so. So thank you very much.
Thank you. No pictures.
Thank you. Next we have Nick McElwee and Lisa Ryder with the Children Youth Services Youth-Based Budget Fiscal Year 7.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lisa has me here. Have an updated budget summary. Let me see. Brought before you last month. Very similar to what was presented in August.
I did reboot it.
Was hoping to have my final 15-16 reports completed to have an actual, but I still have an estimate of a couple days away from finalizing my reports. I just want to highlight the changes from what was presented last month. Fiscal year 15-16, I'm estimating county overmatch about 191,479. That was about 80,000 less than the ones I have my fourth quarter actuals completed and made very good. And then projections changed slightly for 16, 17, and 17, 18. For 16, 17, about 12,800 less, and for 17, 18, about 14,000 less. Any questions?
I would just say I was just reading the article today. I guess the state just released the annual child abuse report, which is always like a year late. But in any event, it certainly underscores the fact that child abuse and neglect remains a serious issue, in Pennsylvania. I'm astonished by the amount of incidents involving sexual abuse of children in particular. So, what you do, at your office to protect children is so important, and we appreciate that. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And just one other thing to point out that the problem persists, but a lot of this volume is generated by legislation that came with absolutely no funding to support it, and it is going on the counties themselves now at this point in order to maintain the safety of its children and the integrity of its neighborhoods, pick up some of that burden. So while seeing an overmatch jump like that in other circumstances might cause a flutter or two, I think is pretty understandable, particularly in the context of you all trying to do what you can in this cost-efficient manner as possible.
So you will have on Monday, requirement of the 3 commissioners' signature on the needs-based budget, which, Keith, I don't know that I let you know this. There's also an addendum in the budget that will need 1 commissioner's signature and your signature, and that is our SEDAS agreement. This is the computer system from the state that speaks to us. This will be a yearly signed document that we can share information. So it'll always be attached to the budget every year, and it requires your signature, and I believe just 1 commissioner, Mr. DeForest will sign. The last time I was here, you did ask me for just a little bit of information about our turnover. So I just wanted to give you just some quick facts about that. So I did some searching and looking at just caseworkers. I focused on 14 caseworker employees that left during this past fiscal year. 5 of those caseworkers were on FMLA prior to their resignation. 4 caseworkers resigned due to life events, moving, going back to school, things like that. 1 caseworker went to another county office, and 4 left for private sector. 5 of those 14 had an average of 10 years experience. And then 9 of the 14 were, the average was 1 year, 2 months of experience. Just kind of drilling down just a little bit, some of the new people coming in, that volume was so high, and I just think they couldn't manage that.
Could you summarize that in an email circulated to
I
the
will do that. I will do that. No problem.
Memorialize that information very valuable.
I will do that.
Appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Next item, number 5, we have John Locke via video teleconferencing. I see the monitor, the miracle of modern technology. See that?
There we go.
Okay, we see a lovely picture of the Allen Road facility.
You probably didn't hear me.
Yeah, you probably didn't hear me.
Yeah. You probably didn't hear me.
All right, why don't we move on to item number 6 with Solicitor Brenneman, and we'll go things around. Solicitor Brenneman, this is a motion to authorize sale of tax claim bureau repository properties.
Commissioners, this is an item that appears before you every few years at least. And by the law that governs how the Tax Claim Bureau operates, properties that aren't sold by judicial sale or by tax upset sale go into a repository. When they're in the repository, they're not gaining any tax income to the tax bodies. When someone is interested in purchasing those properties, it takes the consent of all the taxing bodies, and you, of course, are one of them. So this is a rather standard request that's made of you every so often to approve the sale of those repository properties. It puts them back on the tax books when properties are sold out of the repository.
These are these properties that are delinquent properties?
Yes, they were all properties that were delinquent and paying the real estate taxes for at least a 2-year period. To get across the street to the Tax Claim Bureau and be put on the lists for sale to begin. Yes.
So is this considered a sheriff's sale or something beyond that?
It's a tax sale. It's beyond the sheriff's sale. It's different from a sheriff's sale. You can take away from the sheriff, but it's a different procedural process it's followed because of real estate taxes being unpaid.
Could you answer what's the difference between a sheriff's sale and this? Because I thought a sheriff's sale occurs when the taxes meet that 2-year deadline.
A sheriff's sale takes place when someone has a judgment, a municipal lien, or a mortgage foreclosure action. Generally, there are other circumstances. And it goes through the sheriff's sale process in any of those situations. The tax claim bureau sales and the repository properties come about as a result of the failure only to pay real estate taxes.
Are there any other questions for Keith?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Keith. John, you with us?
Yes.
All right, sir,
I think we're good.
we're gonna double back here and do item number 5, review of resolution 2016-24 regarding bids for sale of county property.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a resolution for the sale of county property that has been retired and is no longer in use. We have over 600 items that we will be putting out for sale, and it will be a silent bid auction and awarded to the highest bidder.
Any questions for John?
No.
All right, John, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep.
We'll move on to item number 7. I'll call on Mick Burkett, discussion of submission of credit application to Castle Branch.
First, I'd like to point out, we are not applying for a line of credit with Castle Branch. That is just what they call the application. What we are doing is, Castle Branch is the company that does our pre-employment screenings, drug testing, criminal background check, those types of things. We have a department that needs to do a credit check on a new employee as part of their state bar. We haven't set that part of the account up yet, and that process includes this credit application to be completed so they can obtain the credit report through one of the credit agencies before they can release that to us. So it's just a formality for us to set up the account.
Any questions for Mick?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mick. We'll move on to item number 8. I will call on Jody Smith, Superintendent Fry, to discuss the memorandum of understanding with Cumberland County Sheriff's Office and Big Spring School District regarding the school resource officer.
Good morning, Commissioners. What you have before you is a memorandum of understanding between the Big Spring School District and the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office for the Sheriff's Office to provide a deputy sheriff to the district as a school resource officer. This understanding would commence with this school year, 2016 to 2017, and it would end in June 2019. So it's basically a 3-year agreement. The memorandum addresses the duties and expectations of the school resource officer, primarily of which is to act as a mentor and role model to the students and staff. It also addresses administrative points, such as the employment, the duty hours, scheduling, transporting students, etc., which you have in front of you. Lastly, the memorandum addresses the cost associated with this project. The costs are outlined in Exhibit A, and as you see, the school district is going to reimburse salaries, benefits. It's not limited to that. They're also reimbursing uniforms, equipment, and training. With me today is Mr. Fry and Mr. Wolf, School Board President. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, so it is my understanding then that in effect, the school district is reimbursing the county for the costs of this position.
Correct.
This position would be during the school year.
It would, for a total of 190 days.
Okay. The remainder of the year, could you discuss that?
That the Sheriff's Office would like to, at this point in time, we have been operating with a staff shortage, which has caused a backfill for overtime. So it is our goal to reduce the number of hours of overtime by the number of hours that the SRO is not in the district.
Okay. So, in effect, essentially, there's no cost to the county for this position.
That's correct.
All right. And the other costs are being picked up by the school district.
That's correct. Yes.
In addition to serving as a mentor for students, which I think is very important. This sheriff's deputy would also have the ability to intercede if there's any kind of school disruptions or...
That is correct. They will be, I believe, how many campuses do you?
Five
currently have?
campuses.
They have 5 campuses. The SRO will mainly be at the high school campus. But if there were an emergency situation either on high school campus or at any of the 4 other campuses, they could respond as first responder.
So they'll be fully armed. Have all the
Correct.
same-
They will be wearing this uniform. Emergency.
Jody, how many candidates do we have?
We have not posted the position. We have had interest in the position from several deputies within our office. And it is our wish to use a seasoned deputy for this position.
I'm sorry, I should have rephrased. I know it hasn't been approved yet, but
Okay.
if and when it is, we do have
We do.
internal candidates.
We do.
Okay, who will be picking the person to fill the position?
There will be an interview panel that will be comprised of supervisors from the sheriff's office. I don't have a number, I have a number in mind, but not.
Just the general
Yeah.
procedure.
And also a representative from the district
Okay.
will serve on the panel.
Thank you.
Wilbur, thanks for being here. Has the school board signed off on this at this point?
I believe that we have, we're fully committed to it. We really look forward to having deputy in our facilities.
The board Tuesday night approved the memorandum by 9 of the,
Okay. And this is a 3-year, essentially, is what we're talking about.
Through the end of 2019, which would be June of 2019.
And the person selected will be a non-smoker, correct?
Yes, we do not.
That would be a requirement.
No doubt.
We all have.
But no, honestly, yes, I agree.
The agreement, from what I can see, looks very close, if not identical, to the one with Cumberland Valley High School between Cumberland Valley and Silver Spring Police Department.
They do have a lot of it.
That's been very successful, so.
I don't know if we asked this in the previous session or not. What about vehicle? Does that take a vehicle out of our,
It will, more than likely, it will be one of our, we have, all of our vehicles have assignments. We have a vehicle that, I don't know if you remember a few years back, we, instead of trading in a vehicle, we kept the vehicle as a spare. That spare will be used because for emergencies at the district.
Are there any other questions for any of our guests and for Jody? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank you.
Item number 9, calling on Dr. Grosso to discuss approval of motion to execute declaration of August 2016 voluntary separation benefit contribution with CNRC.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you recall, excuse me, part of the requirements for the VSP plan is anytime one of the enrollees meets their requirement, the Commissioners are required to execute a declaration of a contribution on their behalf. This is the second to last individual who met the requirement being they worked to their scheduled end date, and that occurred in August of 2016. So that's what you're being asked to approve on Monday, to execute the declaration for that individual. On a side note, the actual VSP itself, once employees signed up, they had a 90-day window in which they had to finalize their employment date. That window has ended, I believe, this week. And the last individual did retire through the last week. So next month I will be coming with the final contribution declaration, and then all the individuals who were in the VSP, the CNRC, will have gone through. Any questions?
Thank you, Bob. Moving on to item number 10, we'll call on Charlie Hall, discussion memorandum of agreement between the City of Philadelphia and Cumberland County as a participating agency, Pennsylvania Task Force 1, for the National Urban Search and Rescue Response System.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a memorandum of understanding between the county and the City of Philadelphia, who is a sponsoring agency for Pennsylvania Task Force 1, which is part of the National Urban Search and Rescue System. This is for county to become a participant in this system. My deputy, Tim Strasbaugh, who retired from Harrisburg City Fire Department after 30 years, has been a member of this task force for 15 years. He is the logistics manager whenever they are deployed, and he would like to continue on the task force, but the county has to be a participating agency in order for him to do that. It's no cost to the county whatsoever. Whenever Tim would be deployed, all his wages, including any backfill wages that we would need someone to cover his shift, would be paid and reimbursed by the federal government. So it would be no cost to the county. I think it would be a good idea for the county to be a participating agency, because you never know when we're going to have a major disaster in our area, you know, whether it be a building collapse or a major flood or, God forbid, a terrorist attack. So I think it would be a good idea.
Are there any questions for Charlie?
I think the only question that arose, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think our solicitor raised it was with respect to workers' compensation.
Coverage, liability coverage and workers' comp, and he will still remain covered. I checked with Nick Burkett, but he'll remain covered when he performs these duties for the task force.
And any of those costs will fall back to us if there's a claim.
I'm sorry, Nick, what?
If there's a claim, that cost will fall back to us. I didn't see that being reimbursed through that agreement.
Right. But the important thing is there's coverage that will still be bought.
Okay. So in other words, he's covered no matter where he provides service in this capacity.
Correct.
This does nothing for our premium.
No.
Are there any other questions for Charlie? Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
I'll move on to contracts and grants with Sandy Wells.
Thank you, Larry. Agenda item number 11.1, A through C are existing contracts, extensions, or addenda with no additional cost or increase to the county. They include the following departments: Aging and Community Services, Claremont Nursing and Rehab Center, and MHIDD. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, or anything on those existing contracts? Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 2A through F, which consists of new contracts, vendor services, grants and contracts with increases and decreases to the county. I'll begin by calling on Christine, who will be joining us via video teleconferencing to discuss the agreement between Aging and Community Services and the Center of Independent Living of Central PA. Christine?
Good morning. We are requesting a contract with the Center of Independent Living to provide personal care and personal assistance services. This is a new contract. We had one of our larger vendors to discontinue providing services, and we were able to find another vendor, which is the Center of Independent Living.
Are there any questions for Christine? Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Also joining us from Aging and Community Services is Kim Bittner to discuss the agreement between Aging and Community Services and Domestic Violence Services of Cumberland and Perry Counties. Kim?
Hi, good morning. We are requesting an amendment to the 15-16 contract. We had an additional $1,200 left after the fiscal year 15-16, and we'd like to give it to them for additional expenses that they incurred.
Are there any questions for Kim? Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to Bethany, who is here to discuss the two agreements for the Bureau of Elections. Bethany?
So the first is the Penske trucks. This is the trucks that we rent to deliver the voting machines and pick them up. The only difference in this contract is it's actually a little bit less than the contract in April, because apparently they are estimating our mileage a little more accurately this time. So it's less money for us than it was in April.
How much is it?
It's $500 less, $4,100, which it might not actually cost that much. That's just the estimate. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going
Okay, and the ES&S contract, it's just a renewal of our 4-year agreement that we continually have with them with the machines. It's for hardware support, software, and firmware support. The initial contract they gave us in April did not include software support, so this is just kind of a fix to the previous contract in April. So it doesn't cost us any more money, it's the same as it's always been. They just forgot to include an important piece in the initial contract.
So it's just a change in the verbiage?
Yes, yeah, it's just a change. We needed to have the software support included in there.
Bethany, could we just back up for a second with truck leasing? So that's what it costs for someone to deliver the voting machines to the different polling places?
It's for the, it's all the trucks that we use, which I believe is 4 or 5 trucks, I'm sorry.
Is there someone from the county that is there to receive these voting machines when they're dropped off, or how does that work?
What we do is they're dropped off in, if they're not placed in a locked room, well, they're placed in a locked room normally, and also bicycle locked together with a code that only the judge has. Or if it can't be in a locked room, they're still bicycle locked together with, with the code, and then that's what they're going to stay there until election day.
Okay, but the person who delivers this is not a county employee, right?
Yes. It's
Yes.
someone from IMTO and someone from maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah, they're sworn election officials.
That's
Yeah,
what
they're
I-
sworn election officials, yeah.
That's what I wanted to,
Yep.
yeah, all right, so it's not just, who's operating, who's driving the truck? Is it
Maintenance usually, and then the IMTO person goes with them. I believe Adam does drive a truck though. He's the only IMTO, the person that drives the truck. But,
Okay.
So you're just running the truck, you're not hiring a vendor?
Correct.
Like
It's-
truck trucking?
Oh, no.
Adam Green drives the truck?
Yeah, he loves to drive the truck. It's his favorite thing. So.
Does he have a horn or a whistle in it?
Oh, I don't even want to tell you what he does. You don't want to know. He loves it.
He wants a flashing light, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
And his siren?
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
No, well, that clears up the question, because so this is just renting the truck?
Yep, just like we've always done. Yep.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to Lynette, who is joining us via video teleconferencing to discuss the 2 agreements for Claremont Nursing and Rehab Center. Well, maybe not. Maybe we'll move down to District Attorney. We will call on Michelle to discuss the 2 grant agreements for victim services. Michelle? Yeah, go ahead.
Having one of those interludes.
Got a company.
I can
I'm requesting permission to apply for a grant. It's the Rights and Services Act and Victims of Juvenile Offenders. This 2-year grant, 2017-2018, they are traditionally 2 grants, but they're now combined into one with 2 budgets. On Tuesday, I gave the solicitor's office the entire grant, and that grant covers the narratives, the budgets. I think it's like 60-some pages. It also has the signature page and the EEOP certification form that needs to be completed. The grant is due next week, Thursday the 15th. I'm out of the office, so if I can have the signature page and the EEOP certification form on Wednesday, I can mail it out and have that in time.
On the action,
Correct. Yes.
Yeah,
So the grant is a 2-year grant. The total VOJO, our juvenile offender grant, distribution is $108,342 grant. It is a $43,000 increase from our last grant. So with the whole restructure of the reclassification of the employees, this advocate's salary increased. But this VOJO grant covers 90% of her salary, covers some of her benefits, and I only put a couple $100 into office supplies and trainings. So this grant is 90% of my advocate. The total RASA distribution is $287,254. This is a almost $77,000 increase from the last 2-year grant. Every victim service employee is on this grant, some percentage. So it covers portions of the salary and the benefits, but this grant covers more of the operating expenses.
Does anyone have any questions for Michelle?
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
610.
Okay, next we'll have Lynette joining us via video teleconferencing to discuss the 2 agreements for Claremont Nursing and Rehab Center. Lynette?
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. We're requesting approval for Fayetteville contractors to add 5 parking spots along the side of the building next to the transition units. What we've been experiencing is a lack of parking. People have been parking in the grass along the side of the building, they've been parking in the back of the building, and then walking along the road, which is a safety issue. So we want to add 5 spots, and then we lay out a sidewalk for those spots afterwards by the county so that they can access the building. Any questions?
What's the cost?
$7,500. Yeah, that's for the parking spots, out of Claremont money.
Brad, you can see when you're down there that there's a lack of sufficient parking. Is 5 spaces sufficient? Is that all that we can get into wherever?
That's about all we can get for the area we have without walking a huge distance. What's kind of added to the problem is people have been using that parking lot to access the C-wing upstairs because it's shorter than parking in the Tower Ground parking lot. I'm thinking the 5 is really going to help. I'm not saying it's totally going to solve the issue, but that's about all the room we have without going to other areas that would require engineering studies, approval, and all that stuff. We can just put these 5 spots in without too much trouble.
Okay. Well, I think it's important for especially the visitors to folks who are at the rehab unit, you know, to have easy access to their relatives there. So, and you're saying 5 added spaces is really all we can get into where you want to put these?
Along that portion of the building, yeah. If we go anywhere else, then we're going to have to go out probably across, which is going to require engineering studies and considerable cost. So we figured we'll try these 5 to see if that, alleviates the issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do you want to move on to the next contract?
Yes, the next contract that we're requesting approval for is Dedicated Nursing Association Incorporated. It's an additional contract for the agency, temporary help for the CNAs, primarily for the weekend. It's at $28 an hour weekday and $31 an hour for the weekend. We've had to use this agency 2 weekends with emergency PO. We had the contract in the works, but it had not been yet signed. Any questions?
Thank you, Lynette. Next, we'll move on to Mick. He's here to discuss the 2 agreements for human resources.
Good morning again. The first agreement is with Capital Blue Cross, and it is the final year of the 3-year agreement that we had entered into with Capital. The medical insurance includes a 2.4% decrease, which is good. Our claims have improved and are more in line with our premium now, which is favorable to the county. The dental is an increase of 4.2%. There is no change in the vision premium, and all those changes do not include any design changes in benefits.
Are there any questions for Mick?
I think we should have a press release on this, really, to notify our constituents that this is a good thing, and I think a lot of credit goes to the county employees staff and my two colleagues here for implementing some changes that I think obviously are showing a positive impact on one of our biggest costs of the county.
We'll take care of that.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the 2.4% decrease, what does that mean dollar-wise?
I'll have to get you that.
That's $300,000. With the consultants for a year, they equated to about $300,000.
That sounds about right, because you're probably talking about a $12 million bill with tails and something.
And I think that's important to put in whatever press release we
Exactly. We'll make sure that we include it all.
And, you know, I would suspect, although there's no guarantee, that the wellness initiative that's part of our overall, you know, healthcare program, you know, may have played a part in the reduction in utilization, which has resulted in this reduction. So
I would assume it's a combination of that and just the design changes that we've made in the past couple of years.
So our employees also, you know, deserve credit you know, for this savings, and I think that needs to be pointed out as well.
Any other questions on that one? Zebu Compliance Solutions, used to be Yost Engineering. The county is required to do what they call a OIG exclusion every month on our employees, which means the federal government can exclude certain employees from receiving funds. It's supposed to be due to some type of fraud. Every month we have to run our employee list against databases, and Zebu is the connection that gives us that access. I believe a contract is roughly $600 a year. It's not a large expense, but it does allow us to remain compliant with regulation.
Any questions from that? Thank you, ma'am. Next, we'll move on to Sioux Park. Also, we'll be discussing the agreement between the Redevelopment Authority and MHIDD, along with two agreements for fiscal year 2016-17 for intellectual developmental disabilities, one agreement for fiscal year 2016-17 early intervention, and one agreement for fiscal year 2016-17 mental health. Sue?
Yes, good morning. The first agreement with the Redevelopment Authority is a renewal contract on the MH side for the 15-16 contract, but it's being decreased by $360,532. This money is Health Choices dollars that the Redevelopment Authority was to get to start the housing project. That did not happen, but last year, but they are anticipating that this money is going to go into the contract this year. So then we'll add those dollars to the contract. The next contract for intellectual and developmental disabilities aspirations is a new contract. It's for $5,000. It is for psychological evaluations to be done, specifically for children. The next contract, Home to Stay, is a new contract, and it's for $10,085. It's for family aid. The Consumer and Family specifically requested this for waivers, so we have to authorize it. The early intervention contract with Keith Parker is a new contract. He is a new occupational therapist. We had developed a waiting list for children for that service due to another occupational therapist leaving, so we hired Keith to provide the services. And the last contract with this NHS Stevens Center is a mental health contract. It is a renewal, but it is being decreased by $80,964 for this year. It's based on fee-for-service billing projections, and also on MA expansion is the reason for the decrease in the contract. Any questions?
So the addition of Mr. Parker, it's not a net increase in our network, it's just basically backfilling the person for the tree.
Yes.
Thank you, Sue. We'll have that.
Thank you, Sandy. We'll move on to item number 12, discussion of capital project request. Lynette, are you there?
Yes, Brad. We have requested
Yeah, so anyway, so how you doing, folks? We have the curtains for the tower building, resident room, project costs $19,014. Brad?
Okay, yeah, we're requesting to purchase 80 curtains for the tower building resident rooms. This will give us 6 spare sets, 2 for each floor. The reason for it is currently we have the mini blinds between the pane and the glass. If you're familiar with some windows on the market, you have the outer pane and you have the inner storm pane, there's the blinds are in between. And they work by turning like a little wheel and on strings. Well, they are so wore out in 1975 windows that a lot of them are broken. We've done multiple repairs the best we can, but some of them we just can't repair anymore. We've been stealing some off the floor. We feel the need to put the curtains up to remedy this problem because we are required by DOH to provide some type of shading. The hope is also that the curtains will actually make the rooms more home-like atmosphere. Because you are well aware, our biggest challenge here at the nursing home is our tower building with trying to fill these rooms because of the way they look. So we feel this step will help us. Marketing also, that will solve the problem that we're dealing with anymore. Are there any questions?
So Brad, do you feel that this is the most economical, cost-effective solution to the problem? Clearly there was a problem. Just is this the most cost-effective way to deal with it, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's really about your own, because I don't think we can even get the parts to fix these windows anymore. And they're not, the blinds really does not give you the nice proper shading. Like I say, I think this is just a win-win. We are doing the installation, so that will keep the cost down.
Any questions?
Brad, are these curtains, are they insulated?
I'm thinking that they have a semi-insulation to it. We've been purchasing some for the Heritage Harbor unit the past couple of years as they fail. They have vertical lines over there and they can break and the parts aren't available. We're using the same type of fabric that we're using over there. They do have some insulation to them.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Other questions? All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 13. Move on to item 13, Commissioner Liaison Reports. Start off with Chairman DeFilippo.
Thanks, Larry. I have one report here. I attended last Thursday the Capital Region Economic Development Corporation's Government Relations Committee meeting. I've been asked weeks ahead of time to attend this. I did. The purpose for me being there is they want to have me introduce myself to their members and provide some updates as to what was going on in Cumberland County. Many of the committee members are from Cumberland County. I mentioned to them some of our things that we're doing, the bridge project, revision of our comp plan, various resolutions that we had passed, such as the voter redistricting issue, other issues such as the regional public transit issue, and I also touched base a little bit on the electronics recycling issue. I took some questions. One question came from a member who mentioned that he had heard something about us pulling out of the CAT arrangement. I explained to them the current situation, the funding partners, and PennDOT's proposal for regionalization. I clearly mentioned that Cumberland County supports PennDOT's plan for public transit regionalization. There were other questions as well. I thought the session went pretty well. And I advised everybody that the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners is working well together. And that was about it.
Any questions for Commissioner DeFilippo?
Did he ask you for money? That's a first.
Guys, I have this documented, so I'll send it to you.
Thank you. Commissioner Herzler.
That's all I have.
Okay, my colleagues will be pleased to hear that I don't have anything to report today.
Is there room for a plaque?
I do want to mention, because I still haven't figured out a way to be at 2 places at the same time. So our next workshop on September 22nd it conflicts with the next meeting of the 911 advisory board, which is over in Harrisburg. And since Larry is essentially evaluating me based on my performance with respect to the 911 advisory board, 75% of my grade is attendance at the meetings, I will have to miss the workshop meeting.
You just picked up some points though. On
27.
Any questions for Commissioner Earthworth? Thank you, Commissioner Eichelberger.
I'm still speechless.
Well, that wouldn't be bad either.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you just a quick rundown of a couple of things. So Kirk wanted me to pass along, Kirk's going to want me to pass along, and Greater Harrisburg Association of Realtors did secure the grant that we had applied for, the $5,000 grant to help support the survey for the comp plan, which we will have outside technical support provided for that by the Shippensburg University Center for Land Use. But that is does give us an extra little funding element so we can do a little maybe in-depth public outreach and sampling of the sentiment on some very key issues for the county. So just thought I'd pass that along. Also, Craighead Bridge bids are due next week. As Kirk puts it, a big day for a project 7 years in the making. We're all familiar with that. The only other item I want to bring up, there's not a whole lot to report on this, but the issue of the recycling, particularly electronics recycling, still is in limbo. We did, Kirk and Justin met with Larry on some ideas, and then they did follow through on a request that was made to go visit the folks in York County to see if there's some type of partnership arrangement. And long story short is, at least for the remainder of this year, they don't think that's going to be feasible. It would be a capacity issue problem for York County. Even those counties that have facilities are struggling with the fact there's just so much in the waste stream, the recycling stream, and very little ability for the recycling companies to handle what they have now. And they expressed concern as well that we would create perhaps an ongoing expectation of our citizens that would be something more than just a temporary outlet and that creates disruption in itself. But one of the things that was suggested was perhaps looking at their contract with their recycler is coming due, so they're going to be rebidding. And the idea has been kicked around that maybe we could approach them about trying to go in with them on that bidding. However, that doesn't solve the need for a collection facility, and York County most likely is not going to be able to provide us any relief on that. So, at least according to staff, our best bet yet is still the idea that in the long range, at least, we're going to need as a county, we're going to need a collection facility, and similar to what some of our neighbors have. Now, that's a pretty big step, just so everybody understands. When our neighboring counties got those facilities, there were a lot of state grants available for these types of things, and Cumberland County did not. That was in the early 2000s. Cumberland County was not really part of that cycle, and a lot of those monies have dried up. So part of what we'd have to do is explore other revenue sources. But ultimately, our staff still is telling us that we need to proceed with the exploration of costs involved in a permanent collection facility. And the main cost there would be staffing. We've concluded that some of the facilities we have might be adequate with some modification. So we'd still need a more thorough analysis to know if that's renovation or new construction, but the staffing would be a long-term commitment, which of course makes this a difficult issue for us to handle. And we still have ultimately the issue of the capacity issue that recyclers simply aren't taking material. So ultimately that has to be resolved. And as we've discussed here numerous times, that is a legislative fix that's going to be needed. And so far, Pennsylvania's been unable to really get the legislature to refocus on this issue. The CCAP's had real success on it either. legislative effort is going to continue to need to go forward. The only other point I'd make is that the Waste Authority did ask the commissioners to perhaps encourage the communications department to do a little bit more public outreach in terms of furnishing an explanation to our citizens as to why they simply don't have an option in Cumberland County when they know that certain other counties do. So I'd like to figure out how we can proceed with Larry, whether it's meeting and discussing it, or we sit down with communications.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things that's not going to go away, and it's going to be an iterative process in terms of communicating with people in the county. And again, it's one of those things where, just like what we talked about with children and youth, there's no solution coming from the state that counties don't want televisions cast in ditches and roadsides and abandoned lots, then it's the financial responsibility for dealing with is being pushed down to the local level by the people at the state who are unable to deal with it.
So I would just comment that, this was, again, the ban was imposed on the disposal of televisions and other electronics, curbside. This was supposed to be the responsibility under the law of the manufacturer to assume the cost for the recycling of these materials. And, the fact that some counties have established recycling centers doesn't change the fact that this was never intended to be the responsibility of local municipalities or the counties. So I think we need to continue to press our case with the state. And I would suggest that maybe one of the things we could do is invite the Secretary of the State Department of Environmental Protection to attend one of our workshops to discuss the alternatives that they are considering on how it is that this issue is going to be addressed. And we may also want to invite our state legislators to a workshop session again, to bring this to their attention, that we need a state solution here. If I understand from what Justin has said, something like 2/3 of the counties in Pennsylvania, don't have any disposal options with respect to old television sets and other electronics. This is not just a Cumberland County problem. This is a statewide problem. CCAP has tried to address it with just a new resolution that was overwhelmingly approved, for folks and their lobbying of what's going to occur in Harrisburg. But, I think we need to continue to make the public aware of the fact that we've tried. We've done everything we could to try to see whether we can put out RFPs to try to get a recycler in and try to deal with this. But this whole idea that the county should open up a recycling center, right, to essentially collect items that we have where there's no recycling market, right? I mean, we're talking about essentially until that issue is addressed, we're talking about creating a dump site. Okay, that's what we're talking about doing. Now, that certainly is better than television sets and the like showing up on our farms along the roads, down over hills and so forth, with respect to the law that's intended to protect our environment, now actually damaging our environment. But I think if we're talking about a landfill, for these items with no recycling market, okay, that's not a responsible course either. So, again, I don't know what the answer is. We've been around this a couple of times. We've tried, I think, as a county to address the issue on behalf of our constituents. But, at this point, first of all, we don't have, we don't have any kind of a funding mechanism for this, other than reaching into the pockets of our property taxpayers again. for something that was not supposed to be our responsibility.
You could be reaching into the pockets of the television and electronic manufacturers who seem to be making quite a bit of money on this, but the choice is not to do that. So
I understand it needs to be addressed. My only point is that, it should be addressed at the state capitol in Harrisburg where this issue and this problem was created.
Let me just add a couple of thoughts. I hear what you're saying, Jim, that it makes sense to a degree, but what staff has conveyed to me is that at least with a collection site, it does likely involve some storage. I don't know that I would characterize it as it don't, but the market for recyclable material ebbs and flows. So it's not that there's no market, but when we rely on these collection events, which happen once a year, once every other year, all of a sudden we've introduced an enormous amount into the recycling stream that simply can't be absorbed. So at least a collection site would allow you to have a much more manageable stream because it would be available on an ongoing basis. You wouldn't have this huge bottleneck where you're getting backlogs of materials. So it does provide us an option. I understand what you're saying. It was never intended to be our responsibility. There are lots of things that the state mandated that were never intended to be our responsibility. This is one among a very sizable and growing list of obligations that the state has decided to pass down the chain. As they say, you know what flows downhill.
But we did communicate with the governor's liaison who's in here about this issue and how important it is to us. And in fact, I think Representative Bloom has introduced a bill, that hopefully can get some movement. But again, I think we need to, like I said, I think we should invite the Secretary of the State Department of Environmental Protection and any of our legislators who might be willing to attend one of our workshops to discuss what it is they're doing.
A couple other thoughts, though. I wouldn't object at all to having a workshop where we invite them on. I'm sure you'll get attendance. I would like to perhaps consider some other venues, maybe even a outside public meeting, maybe not just on this topic. We previously had been taking commissioner meetings on the road around the county, and that kind of dried up. And this is an issue there's a lot of public interest in. It certainly could be one of the issues we could put on the agenda if we were to take the show on the road again, so to speak. A couple other points real quick is, we have no county monies available currently from the general fund. I would like us to explore whether we could, I hate to cannibalize other dollars, but we do have land partnerships money that was set aside this time, $92,000. It's a variable revenue source, but it might be something that, if legally we could apply it toward operations in a center, it might be a start. I think there are probably some state dollars that could become available. As Jim mentioned, we engaged with the governor's staff and DCED here recently and asked them for any help possible on this issue. I think ultimately what staff is telling us is that this is probably going to have to be involving fees for the use of the facility by those who want to bring materials there. There are some options that come and go out in the private sector. There are some vendors right now, I think, who are taking computer monitors. They take them on a paid basis. You have to pay to do it. And that might just be a shift that needs to take place in the public's attitude. If they want recycling, paying for it has to come about somehow. We do need, in part of the communications, to get that message out on who is taking those materials. So I would like to see us develop and devote some space on the website to this issue because people are looking for it, and then maybe promoting that as a way of getting that information out. I wouldn't mind actually, frankly, telling people, here's the name of some legislators who are on the committee, the Conservation Committee. Call them up with your complaint. This is not just the commissioners trying to wash their hands of this or shift the blame to somebody else. There's, it's a complex issue, and getting those solutions is going to be complex, but the public is part of it. And I have no problem with telling them, call your legislator, because that's what our legislators are for. So I'd like to see that as part of it. So I think we need to have an in-depth exploration of whether state dollars, whether other county dollars, whether the fees are part of it. It's probably going to take a mix of all of those things. I did want to mention one thing, just to set the record straight. The industry does have a responsibility here, but bear in mind that there's very little in this country in general, there's very little use of requiring manufacturers to absorb the costs. We don't deal with most of the materials that are manufactured in this country or out of this country and purchased in this country. And electronics recycling, despite what you say, the margins are razor thin. Most of the television manufacturers have been driven out of business over the last 3 or 4 years. There's only a handful of television manufacturers left, and very few of them are actually making money. That's precisely why you get new models 3 and 4 times a year. Everybody's trying to push an upgrade cycle so that they don't go bust. So I think there just needs to be a little bit of recognition that, at least the way the laws are written, the industry is incentivized to produce as many of these things as possible, and they are not incentivized to take it back. So there's obviously a need for action at a national level on this. There's a need for action at the state level on this, and there most likely is going to be some need for action at the county level on this as well. So I think if all of us just point the fingers at the others doesn't get us anywhere. But yes, we need to communicate to the public. We have been trying, and we also need to communicate that we're open to ideas. You never know. So we're searching for ideas right now. The Waste Authority is searching for ideas. The commissioners are searching for ideas. And we got a lot of smart people in this county. Maybe we can solicit some suggestions as well.
All right, so my takeaway from this is a couple of 3 things. Number one, I know staff is working on putting together a proposal with options. And I think we'll probably have a finance meeting so we can devote the necessary time to that. Part of that will be logistics, part of it will be financial options. We're bringing the finance department to work with us on that, as well as a communications plan. And hopefully have that within the next couple of weeks.
I'd like to be involved in those discussions too.
Okay, the other thing is to get in touch with the Department of Environmental Protection, see if they'd be willing to come to some sort of venue and talk about this. So that's my takeaway. And I can't resist. So this is my personal opinion. The tobacco industry had to pay for what they did. That's there's plenty of precedent. And as far as the diminishing number and the hardship of electronics manufacturers, have been great level of consolidation within that industry. There are people that make considerable amount of money. So I think it's a public, and the public includes the manufacturers. Everybody's got a share to play on this one. Any questions for Commissioner Eichelberg? Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Hartsburg. We will report on the following executive sessions: August 30th, 2016 at 1 p.m. regarding litigation issues, August 31st, 2016, 3 p.m. regarding personnel issues, September 1st, 2016, 1 p.m. regarding litigation issues. We'll also make a request for executive session following this meeting regarding personnel issues. At this point, I'd like to ask if there's any other business for anyone to bring to the attention of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners.
If I could, I just wanted to, under other business, we are working on the draft bylaws for the bylaws for the nonprofit Claremont, and I shared a copy of the revised with my colleagues yesterday. I hope that we might be in a position to discuss that further at our regular meeting on Monday, and we also hopefully take action at that time. So that I would just ask my colleagues if they have any additional comments to get those to our solicitor, Larry, so that we can maybe incorporate any other suggestions that they might have into this. I believe the folks, 2 members of the Residents Council and the other core group members have been invited to attend Monday's regular, Monday's regular meeting. So
That's
if
correct.
there's any questions of them, or they have anything else that they would like to say, that they could do that on Monday. But
I am sure they will have things in favor.
Yeah.
They're believers.
Yeah, but I think, at least as far as I'm concerned, the revised version is a good step forward, and I think that, you know, hopefully can get this accomplished, you know, on Monday, and I thank my colleagues. So.
All right, thank you. In that case, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.